Welcome to our open book. Very good to be with you tonight. It occurred to me over the past couple of days, we've got a week now because July 4th is next Saturday. It's the day of our show. Hi there, SR. Hi there, Midwest Resistor. Hi there, Lisa Beslitty, Dorothy Joy, Ann Wheeler, John Mahoney, SR. You're particularly funny this morning. Rhonda. Hi there, Ralph Rice. I think this week we're going to have readings from a few books about that period of 250 years ago, and then some. A book I read a number of years ago and really liked, Benson, Columbia University historian, Angel in the Whirlwind. Yes, I think she was getting together another post, if I'm not mistaken. I should have gotten that too. And I want to read about the First Continental Congress. They did not come together necessarily, hi there, Carla Atkinson, with a revolution on their mind, but what they considered to be justice, a better deal. So let me start reading from this remarkable book. Came out in, I believe, 1998. George Washington was one of the first delegates chosen. I think we're going to hear more from him. On August 31, accompanied by Patrick Henry and Edmund Pendleton, he set out on horseback for Philadelphia. Washington's wife, Martha, stood in the doorway that morning and said, "God be with you, gentlemen." I don't know, Reverend Flowers. Good question. I don't know. Well, that's a morning edition thing, so maybe they would do it the day before. I don't know. "God be with you, gentlemen," wrote Pendleton afterward to a friend. "She seemed ready to make any sacrifice and was very cheerful, although I know she felt very anxious. She talked like a Spartan mother to her son on going to battle. 'I hope you will all stand firm,' she said. 'I know George will.' To a concerned relative, Martha confided, 'Yes, I foresee consequences, dark days and darker nights. Domestic happiness suspended, social enjoyments abandoned, property of every kind put in jeopardy by war, neighbors and friends at variance, and eternal separations on earth possible. But what are all these evils when compared with the fate of which the port bill may be only a threat? My mind is made up. My heart is in the cause. George is right. He is always right. God has promised to protect the righteous, and I will trust him.' 55 delegates all gathered at Philadelphia, deliberately spurning the assembly room of the State House as representing the political establishment. They met in a large room in Carpenter's Hall, a sort of union or guild hall, on Monday, September 5th. Yet, despite British fears, they had come together not so much as to plan for independence as to unite, if possible, upon the most effective measures for defending what they considered to be their common rights. The letter of instruction given to the Virginia delegation, for example, was conciliatory, almost apologetic in tone, expressing allegiance to the king, supporting, quote, all his just rights and prerogatives, and affirming a desire for continued constitutional connection with Great Britain, and, quote, a return of that intercourse of affection and commercial connection that formerly united both countries, which can only be effected by a removal of those causes of discontent which have of late unhappily divided us. Most realize that excessive accommodation was also dangerous, and the clear-eyed Abigail Adams, writing to her husband John, succinctly moralized what was at stake. Abigail wrote, "Did any kingdom or state ever regain its liberty when once it was invaded without bloodshed? I cannot think of it without horror. Yes, we are told the misfortunes of Sparta were occasioned by their too great solicitude for present tranquility. From an excessive love of peace, they neglected the means of making it sure and lasting. In Boston, Gage had begun to fortify Charlestown Neck with entrenchments and breastworks so as to close the only approach to the city by land. He seized 300 barrels of powder from the city arsenal and was about to mount cannon on Beacon Hill. At the Congress, despite sectional differences, which might have divided the delegates along regional lines, there was an urgent solidarity. Patrick Henry set the tone. All America, he said, is thrown into one mass. Where are your landmarks, your boundaries of colonies? They are all thrown down. The distinctions between Virginians, Pennsylvanians, New Yorkers, and New Englanders are no more. I am not a Virginian, but an American. After some debate, it was decided that each colony should have one vote, irrespective of the number of its delegates, and that the deliberations would be secret and nothing published but the resolves. To give proper dignity and solemnity to the proceedings, it was also proposed that they be opened each morning by prayer. That at first ran upon the rock of religious diversity in America. Some of those in attendance were Episcopalian, others Quakers, Anabaptists, Presbyterians, Congregationalists, and so on. It was supposed that we could not join in the same act of worship, recalled John Adams. Then Samuel Adams rose and said that he was no bigot and could, quote, hear a prayer from a gentleman of piety and virtue, whatever his faith or denomination, who was at the same time a friend to his country. Although a Puritan himself, he suggested that the Reverend Jacob Deutsch, an Episcopal minister, offer the benediction the following morning. I think I've heard some people come home. How are you, baby? I'm in the middle of open booking.
Hello, open bookers.
Elise says hello. Did you leave Alex on the street?
Oh, Alex is over there somewhere.
Hi there, Alex. The suggestion was adopted, and Deutsch read the 35th Psalm. Although, hi there, Catherine Capel, and I notice Mr. Dickens joining us a little late. Although it was hoped that the delegates would represent the united wisdom of North America, John Adams at first thought they might not be equal to their task. In his diary, he wrote, I wander alone and ponder. I muse, I mope, I ruminate. We have not men fit for our times. We are deficient in genius, in education, in travel, in fortune, in everything. I feel unutterable anxiety. God grant us wisdom and fortitude should the opposition be suppressed. Should this country submit, what infamy and ruin, God forbid, death in any form is less terrible. But 3 days after the Congress began, he was of a different mind. There is in the Congress, he wrote, a collection of the greatest men upon the continent in point of abilities, virtues, and fortunes. The magnanimity and public spirit which I see here make me blush for the sordid, venal herd. Well, although outstanding figures may occasionally emerge in response to a historical crisis, those who arose, no earthen flowers. We're going to go out tonight. JB, bring back home. But thank you for asking. She's made some great stuff, though. Oh.
Go for dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really has.
But yeah, we have had some good meals these past few days.
Thanks to you guys, yes. Surely this is so in the aggregate. Listen to this call of names: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, George Wythe, George Mason, Edmund Randolph and the Lee family of Virginia, Samuel and John Adams, John Hancock of Massachusetts, Ben Franklin, John Dickinson, and Robert Morris of Pennsylvania, John Jay, James Duane, and Governor Morris of New York, John Rutledge and Edward Rutledge of South Carolina, and more, with Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and others beginning to step forth into the light. Generally speaking, they were men of wealth or professional distinction, socially staid, not likely to be rebels, and belonged to an intellectual elite. Sorry, I lost my place. About a third were lawyers, and most held university degrees. They were gentlemen in the old-fashioned sense of the word, which, wrote Esther Forbes, implied lace ruffles, clean hands, and a knowledge of Latin and Greek. Some were conservatives, some moderates, some radicals. None openly advocated independence. None openly favored obedience to Britain at any price. Nearly all desired some honorable accommodation that would have allowed them to remain within the British Empire. It's a very good point, Mr. Dickens. The few wrote down their first impressions of one another. John Adams thought John Alsop of New York a sweet, soft man. Alsop's fellow delegate, John Duane, very sensible and very artful. Silas Deane of Connecticut found Roger Sherman, also of Connecticut, clever in private, but unsuited by his countrified manner, and talked to the august assembly of a chestnut burr for an eye-stone. Boy, is that an insult or a compliment? All right. Joseph Galloway, the suave speaker of the Pennsylvania Assembly and a Philadelphia aristocrat, regarded Sam Adams with a distaste. A revolutionary fanatic who eats little, drinks little, sleeps little, thinks much, and is most decisive and indefatigable in the pursuit of his objects. To many, Adams' lifelong radicalism was indeed suspect. At Harvard, he had written his master thesis on whether it be lawful to revisit the supreme magistrate of the king, the Commonwealth cannot otherwise be preserved, and it argued, of course, that it was. That argument became his life. But his cousin John later remarked with awe at his perseverance that he had been born and tempered a wedge of steel to split the knot of ligament vitae which tied North America to Great Britain. And his adherents esteemed him incorruptible and completely selfless in his dedication to the Republican ideals. Let me read just a little more. Patrick Henry, reputation as a colorful orator had preceded him as the flamboyant Silas Deane, but the judgment of the most may be summed up by a later colleague. He had fine blue eye and an earnest manner which made it impossible not to attend to him. In his speaking, he had a happy articulation and a clear, distinct, strong voice. Every syllable was distinctly uttered. He was very unassuming as to himself, amounting almost to humility, and very respectable toward a competitor. Perhaps, and this is interesting to note because we will take him up later this week, of course. Hi there, Lucanum. Perhaps the most enigmatic figure was George Washington, who was reserved in his manner almost to silence, but with a magnetic presence that obliged everyone to attend to his counsel and to turn and regard him when he walked into a room. He was a soldier, a warrior, one delegate noted, yet a modest man, sensible, speaks little, in action cool like a bishop at his prayers. Many reputations would wax and wane over the years, and some fade entirely, but after Washington's, the most abiding would belong to Jefferson and John Adams, the odd couple, as some have said of their revolution. Adams was short, stout, temperamental, voluble, and testy. Jefferson, calm, reserved, taciturn, tall, and thin as a reed. Eventually, the struggle was over. They disagreed on almost every important public issue, and Adams himself remarked in his old age that for most of their lives they had, quote, looked at the world through different ends of the telescope. But during the Revolution, at least, they generally saw eye to eye. Though Jefferson was not a delegate to the First Continental Congress, I never knew that before today, by the way, his presence was felt by the way of his leadership in the House of Burgesses and by his polemical writings. And so, it may not be amiss to give some account of both men here. This is just a rhapsodic history. Benson, Broderick, Angel in the Whirlwind. I'm going to be reading something along these lines and from here again. Every night this week on the run up to July 4th. So thanks for being with us tonight on our open book. I have a little planning to do. Very good to be with everybody. Thank you, everyone who joined us this morning. Do you like ranch dressing, baby?
Not particularly.
Not particularly. Okay. Do you know it's the most popular condiment in America?
Really?
Yeah. Do you know people are bringing it back? World Cup visitors?
Oh, yeah, I did know that.
They're like, yeah, you knew that. Okay. Did you know I did an essay about it this morning? Ah, you were busy. You were at work.
Mm.
2 members of the family at work. I like that. And of course, Daisy in her own way, always at work. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not wild about, what did I say? I think I said that I thought it tasted like curdled, creamy pillowcase stuffing. So thanks very much for being with us tonight on our open book. We'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.